Welcome into MJT football here for the AFC North preview show. It's going to be fun. I would like all of you to go ahead and put on your Joe Burrow glasses right now. Mike, put them on.
I put them on.
Those aren't even store brand.
Joe Shiesty.
Welcome into the channel, everybody. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're doing the AFC North preview here with Phil Tucker. Intro the show. Great intro, by the way, Tony. And Joe Morley Sports. Y'all ready for this? Baltimore Ravens all the way, right? We're all Ravens fans here, right?
Flock up. What's their saying?
Flock Nation.
Oh,
no.
I flocked up.
What even is a flock nation? The flock is already a group, and a nation is also another group. They're a double group.
Birds fly together, right? Or is that Mighty Ducks? I don't know. We're getting mixed up.
Something like that. We're going to get into our predictions and our preview for this division. If you guys haven't been tuned into the channel, we did all of our division previews last year. It was a great time, by the way. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, notifications on, so you can be here for this one, the rest of the NFL, and next season's division previews, which are going to be great as well. We're all going to be giving our division predictions at the end for 2022. But first, before we get to it, the winner, the most accurate for the AFC North in 2021 was everyone except for me. Joe and Tony tied, actually, on the most accurate predictions for the AFC North in 2021. I give myself an excuse, man. My MVP pick rolled his ankle in week 8 when they were on their way to winning 13 games, whatever I had them doing. Give me a pass.
Can't win them all, Mike. You can't win them all.
You win some, you lose some, right?
Well, he's going to get paid. He's going to get a big old bag in the next couple days. Maybe by the time this video comes out, and he'll be ready to go get MVP number 2.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I like that sentiment, Tony. I like that. I should get a Lamar Jackson jersey. It's kind of disgrace I don't already have one. But anyways, we're going to get into this. Everyone, make sure you comment your division predictions in the comment section below. Compare them to ours, and we will be responding to your comments when this video airs. Let's start off with last year's division winners. Spoilers.
Oh,
last year's division winners. The Cincinnati Bengals. Joe, I'll let you handle it first. I'll go last on this one. Joe, Cincinnati Bengals, thoughts on the offseason?
Cincinnati Bengals had a great offseason, right? They went out and signed every offensive lineman they can because Joe Burrow got beat up last year, and I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. We talked about this in some of our mock drafts on Monday that I think the Bengals have a lot of tape on them now. They had some career years by Mixon and everything, staying healthy for the first time. Their defense really isn't that good. They still got Eli Apple starting, right? So Bengals are okay. We'll see what happens. I'm not happy with their offseason. I'll give them a C on it.
I think the Bengals had a tremendous offseason for being the Bengals. I always think that it's hard to get people to sign there. Everybody knows about the reputation of the facilities, right? Like, we saw what they did with Jesse Bates. We're all like, well, they're for sure going to pay this guy because he's just helped them get to a Super Bowl. No, we're not going to pay Jesse Bates. We're going to franchise tag him, make him feel alienated and unloved for all the sacrifices he did. I feel bad for this fans' organizations if they have to go through a situation with Joe Burrow and trying to sign him to a long-term deal. Like, the owner better come, just open up the checkbook, Joe, whatever you want, it's yours. The world's your oyster. We'll see what happens.
And that's what they should do. And also, Tony, that's what they should do for the stars that help build the team around Joe Burrow, like Jesse Bates. So We'll see what the Bengals do. I actually have a TikTok in the works in my draft called Money Issues, Cincinnati version. So we'll see what happens when Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all these guys want a contract at the exact same time. But as far as the outlook and the offseason for the Bengals, I think they improved the O-line. The O-line couldn't have gotten any worse than it was last year. Gave up 9 sacks in a playoff game that they still somehow won. With that being said, they still somehow won that game because the offense was performing at an insane level. The defense was performing at a higher level than expected per player. on that side of the ball. I think that this year it would be a damn near a miracle if they pulled off what they did last year offensively and defensively. Because last year they all overperformed. Of course, they have a lot of young guys. They have a lot of young talent. So the offense is going to be really good still. I just don't know if I believe in them being so electric that they have all these big plays that they had a year ago. I also think that a division rival, the Baltimore Ravens, was plagued with injuries. And if they don't get plagued with injuries, there's a serious chance the Bengals will even make the playoffs last year. We forget that they squeaked into the playoffs. They made the playoffs by one game. If they lose one more game last year, they don't even make the playoffs last year. So I think they have a similar year, the upcoming year, similar team in the upcoming season. The offensive line, with the schedule getting tougher and the division rivals getting healthier, it's kind of washing out to end up similar for me this year for the Bengals. Any final thoughts, or on to the Steelers came in second last year?
Steelers.
Let's go to the Steelers. Joe, Steelers offseason. Here we go.
Big Ben's gone. They brought in Mitchell Trubisky, who everybody thought was going to be, and then they go, oh, you know what? Let's waste our first-round pick on another quarterback. Why sign a free agent and then bring in Kenny Pickett as well? But at least they saved themselves with the savior, George Pickens, the wide receiver, right? He should be out there dominating. I don't know. I don't think they did enough on our offensive line again. I'm a big guy on offensive line. This is a division that hits, right? This is a division that runs the ball and loves to hit each other. You need to fix your offensive line. Defense is a little bit iffy with Devin Bush and his injury. If he's back, he was missing a couple wide open tackles at the preseason game. That's what preseason for, though. Pittsburgh is there, and they have Mike Tomlin as their head coach, Tony, right? The great coach, Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin cures all ails and will have them in the Super Bowl because coaching means everything, right, Bill Belichick? The Steelers, I think, had a very Mike Tomlin influenced offseason. Brought in good players who know football, who are smart. I really like Miles Jack, the guy that they got from Jacksonville. I think that's a nice piece. Minka's locked up to a nice contract, and you still have TJ Watt. So defensively, it's Cam Hayward, so they're going to be fine. Mike Tomlin's a great coach, and Mitch Trubisky, sorry about that, is good enough to help them win football games. The offensive line, I believe, another year, they had a lot of young bodies, cohesiveness. The Steelers are the Steelers. It's going to be fine. I don't worry about them at all.
I do think that the Steelers are going to have a little bit of a growth year, but not in a bad way. I think that this team is resetting at the quarterback position, which is a key part of your team, like we talked about in other division previews. I think that the offensive line is a serious fail point when you take into account that they do have either a rookie quarterback or Mitchell Trubisky, who has just proven that he's not quite the elite guy that some of the guys that were drafted in the same draft class as him, which is pretty hard to do when it's Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. But I like that they kept Terrell Edmonds around. He's still developing. He's a fine talent in the league. And keeping Minka Fitzpatrick in town. Minka was going to have a contract year this year in Pittsburgh, but getting him extended shows that they're committed to the future of this defense. The cornerback position is still weak for the Steelers, but that defensive line and that linebacker group, they cover up a lot of problems in that secondary because they get to the quarterback and they get to him fast. And they added Miles Jack as well. That was a little bit of a sneaky ad behind the scenes. The Jaguars bolstered up their linebacker core by bringing in Aluakun and drafting Trevon Walker on the edge. Well, Miles Jack ended up being the guy out of that party and went to Pittsburgh, where I know Mike Tomlin's going to get the most out of that guy.
Real quick, before you move on to the Browns, did they? I think they brought in Levi Wallace. He's a good corner from Buffalo, so we don't know what that's going to look like. That could be a nice upgrade for them at the cornerback position.
Yeah, and Joe Hayden didn't play last year. He's still on the team. A good veteran. He's not what he was, but he's a good veteran. All right, on to Cleveland. It stinks in Cleveland, Joe. But what do you think?
We're on to Cleveland. No Baker Mayfield. He's gone. We got, I don't know. I'm doing my prediction, and I'm thinking it without Deshaun Watson for the season. As of right now, it's 6 games. If he's there, it makes a big difference, I think, to the team because you go from Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett. You pick which one. And like I said, there is a big difference. They're still going to hand the ball off to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, whoever else is back there, still going to run the ball. Wide receiver position, like I know you brought in Amari Cooper, but come on, drop city on Amari Cooper. And that I think The only good thing I like about the Browns is their defense. I think the Browns' defense is very underrated and can carry this team into some wins that they shouldn't get. And just for that fact alone, I don't care who the quarterback is. I think that defense carries them, and they win a couple more games than we think.
Yeah, it's a good football team with Kevin Stefanski as coach. My whole thing here is coaching does matter. Having an identity and following a system, it leads to wins. Even with banged up quarterback play, they were still able to win quite a few games last year, even with injuries at running back, and they had injuries all over their defense. I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good football coach, and that will prevail. Now, if you're telling me Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs potentially have to start a bunch of games for this team, the ceiling probably isn't quite as high as we thought it was last year. But though it's the Browns. I don't really want to get too deep into my thoughts. Like, they finally spent money and they spent it on the wrong person, in my opinion. Like, I think they should have kept Baker and spent that money elsewhere to make that team that much better. If you're going to give out guaranteed contracts, give them to people who can actually play and impact your team right now. I get quarterback is the number one position.
I do feel like they rushed that. Because remember, it was like 3 teams in the mix, so the Browns were just like, hit the button. Let's get him here right now. Instead of like really thinking about it and looking at the situation they would be in if he did get suspended for a whole year. And they had Baker Mayfield on the team still with a huge, cap hit for the way his contract was laid out. I think that Baker Mayfield is going to get exposed a little bit this year, guys. I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield believer. When I say exposed, I think that this offense is going to look very similar with Jacoby Brissett in it. They're going to pound the rock. They're going to give it to Nick Chubb. They're going to give it to Kareem Hunt, and they're going to feed their weapons down the field off the play action when you come up to try and stop Nick Chubb. I saw it in person last year against the Chargers. Nick Chubb is a damn animal. There's a reason that they ain't paying Kareem Hunt a dime because they don't think that they need to because of how good Nick Chubb is. If he's healthy, the ground game's going. Like you guys said, the defense has a lot of talent on it. They can still surprise us, win more games than we thought. But on the same breath, this team is smelling like the Cleveland Browns. There's only like a handful of teams that have been ran worse than the Raiders over the last 20 years, and the Browns are one of them. And I smell a catastrophic failure coming. I don't know when it's going to be, but I smell it. Sean Watson didn't look good in the preseason. He didn't look good at all in the preseason.
The thing is that they'll probably finish similar to the record I have and then fire Stefanski, and it'll be like, what are you doing? You had a good coach. You finally had a quarterback who was happy and proud to be there and were winning some football games, and you panicked.
Yeah,
the Browns are the Browns.
The Browns are the Browns. And this team, Tony, is still, in my opinion, even if Deshaun plays the full season, as far as the weapons go, maybe a little bit in the secondary also, they're one more really good offseason away from really contending with the powerhouse teams in the AFC. So they still had to wait anyways. Might as well have just done it with Baker. Give one more shot.
Yeah. You had him on a rookie deal.
Exactly.
And let's just
somewhere else.
Let's just remind people that Tony, who'd you have winning the Super Bowl last year?
I had the Cleveland Browns.
You know who I had winning the Super Bowl last year, Joe? I had the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl, which is our actual next team. And I'll lead this one off because I love John Harbaugh. I love Patrick Queen. I love Marlon Humphrey. I love Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton and Adobu and all these guys that they've brought into this team over the last couple of years. They're really good. This roster is loaded with the perfect roster for what John Harbaugh wants to do ever since the Lamar Jackson era has started. He wants to run the football with his electric quarterback and his crazy running back committee that is loaded up once again with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards if he can get healthy, and Mike Davis. And he wants to play sound, great, classic Baltimore Ravens defense. And finally, we see a safety duo. That's nasty. We see a linebacker group led by Patrick Queen. That's nasty. And the pass rush, I feel like, is back to where it was in the Ravens defense glory days. Watch out for the Ravens, man. I think that they're contenders. They had a great offseason, great draft. I feel like they moved on from Hollywood Brown and got a first-round pick for him at the perfect time. I love the whole thing. Love the whole thing. Joe, go ahead.
Look, Mike, you know my thoughts on Lamar Jackson and this offense. I don't care about this offense. When I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens in this season, I'm looking at this defense. And I told you last year what was the downfall of the the Ravens last year is when their defense started getting hurt. They lost running backs all season. They lost running backs early. They lost offensive players early. But what really started to kill them was when they started losing the defensive backs and the defense right there. This defense is loaded. They got Marcus Williams at safety. They brought in Kyle Fuller. They still got Marcus Peters coming back. Marlon Humphreys is one of the best cornerbacks in the game. This defense right here is going to shut people down just like the old Baltimore defense, and that offense doesn't need to put up points, but it's going to help them because even when Lamar's struggling, that defense is going to bail them out.
I think we're all on the same page here, and like I said at the top of the show, Lamar Jackson is either going to have something to prove or have something to back up. Right? It's either I need to get my big contract or I just got my big contract. Either way, Lamar Jackson seems like a very focused, driven, hardworking individual who I think will enjoy a lot of success in this NFL, in this league. I don't necessarily know if it's as long as some other quarterbacks, right? Just because of the play style, but I do think it's going to be a lot of success and very impactful. This team should have been competing for a Super Bowl last year. They even avoid half of the injuries from last year. They'll be in the playoff mix and be people's, Super Bowl pick next at the end of this year. I don't know why I can't talk. What the fuck is wrong with me?
They also added Michael Pierce. They re-signed Calais Campbell and re-signed Justin Houston. Yeah, the defense is going to be insane. Joe said it. The defense is a perfect mix of like elite talent that's young and veterans that were elite and can teach these guys. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch on the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens. And I still think that they're going to win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson at some point. All right, are we ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
The reveal. 3, 2, 1. Surprise, surprise. We have almost the same standing predictions here. All right. You heard from me first last time. Joe, let's talk about this 3 wins for the Browns. Come on.
I'm going with the assumption that Deshaun Watson doesn't play at all this season. Jacoby Brissett, I've already said that I think the division is tough enough where, yes, that defense is good and that defense can carry them, but Jacoby Brissett in that offense is not enough for me. I think, come on. J.C. Trotter's still out there, guys. Go sign him because you need a center. Your center's not playing good in this preseason. You're doing too much. The Browns are the Browns. We've already talked about it, and they revert back to where they are. But, hey, it works out good because when they get Deshaun Watson back next year, they get a top pick with it.
3 wins.
Tony, yeah, I'll ask you, what's your thoughts on 3 wins?
3 wins, Joe? The other day, there's a video. Scroll back in here. I gave Joe a very impassioned speech about how they could – somebody asked a question in a live show Joe and I were doing. They said, can the Browns make a playoff run with Jacoby Brissett? And I gave Joe this big speech about Dearness Johnson is their 3rd running back. And Joe goes, you know what, Tony? I think you convinced me. Then we do the predictions. And my good friend Joe here goes 3 wins for the Joe. They have their defense is good enough. 3 wins. That's what the Jaguars and Jets got last year. And those teams were hot garbage. 3 wins. Joe is coming with the hot takes. I love it. If they win 3 games, I don't think Stefanski even makes it to Turkey Day. If they're a 3-win team, I don't even think he's celebrating the holidays with the Browns.
I'm not going to hate on your pick as much, Joe. I do think 3 wins is really, really low. They're going to win. Even if they have a terrible, god-awful season, they're going to win 6 games. But I do smell something stinky. I'm just saying. I'm going to keep saying that I do smell something here. That I smell something terrible here. And if there's small, minor injuries to these guys, are they going to want to go right back out there for Jacoby Brissett if he's the quarterback for the entire season? Before you know it, now the Browns have all their players sitting and stinky. Tony, my question for your predictions here, and you guys can roast me afterwards if you have anything to say. But my thing is here, we have 3 teams with 10 wins here. When we go to the AFC West, are we only sending 1 team from the AFC West to the playoffs, or?
So this is the part why I win, right? Because I don't take into effect when I am doing how many teams are making the playoffs in my prediction. I will give like 8 teams 8, 9, 10 wins, which are all right around that spot. And then that means I'm going to hit on most of them. I'm strategic with it, Mike.
You cheat.
Don't be shocked. Don't be, we didn't say it needs to even out to the exact numbers of games won and played and whatever else and mathematically makes sense.
Wait. Are y'all not playing by those rules?
Mike, don't pretend like you sit there and add up the amount of wins and losses and allocate.
You want to see? You're lucky I don't have my phone. I have a list of every game in the AFC, and I went through every single one.
I broke down every game, Mike. I went through every game, and I said who's going to win each one, and that's where I got my records. I didn't go, here, you get 10 wins, you get 10 wins, you get 10 wins.
What you're saying, Joe, is we're stripping Tony of the tie for the AFC North. You win it. Congrats.
No way. I will not take that because we never set any guidelines because then there would have to be some amount of like math that's done to make sure that the numbers add up in the wins and loss column for all. It doesn't matter.
Well, I do that. I put all the schedules next to each other. So when I mark a win for the Bills, then I go mark a loss to the team that I marked the win for.
There's a website you can do. It does it all for you.
I don't do any of that. I just go through and I'm like, this is what your record could be. This is what your record. This is what I think your record will be. I do zero math. I just pick.
If you win this, I'm putting an asterisk next to it. It's like a Disneyland one.
Also, too, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna make sure that there is the perfect number of games. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter that much. Anyways, anything you guys want to challenge me over? Oh wait, Tony. You didn't answer the original question. Do you think 3 teams make it from this division? Or is like a 10-win team gonna like lose a tiebreaker?
I think the AFC is going to have a 10-win team, at least one that doesn't make the playoffs this year. Because it was 2009, 2008, whatever it was. The Jets were 9-8 or 10, 9-7 or whatever. The Bills were 10-6. The Jets were 10. There was like 4 teams, and there was a 10-win Patriot team or 11-win Patriot team that didn't even make the playoffs. It was a year where I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are in that 9-10 wins. Because are we really going to have 2 teams that are only going to win 3 games in the AFC this year? We had the Jets and Jaguars were down at the bottom, and the Texans. So we had like a bunch of teams with 3 or 4 wins. If that's the case again this year, I think we'll see the same thing. Although if the Bills are winning 15 games and Chargers and Chiefs and all these other teams are winning crazy amounts.
Somebody has to lose these games.
Well, your predictions could also come true, Tony, with a lot of wins for the AFC side. If they just dominate the NFC in the interconference games. That's another possibility. So when we do the NFC predictions, Tony, I want to see a bunch of 3-win teams, okay? A bunch. Like every single team except for the Buccaneers and Rams.
All I'm saying is I can't give more games. It's not like I gave the Jaguars 20 losses because they're bad. So I have the same amount of games as you. I just don't make sure that it makes sense based on what their schedule is.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm calling that you're scheming here a little bit because like this could happen in the AFC North and the Browns stink, like Joe said, but you still get the other 10 wins. But then I guess your Browns will be way off. Doesn't matter. We're in the middle of this. We can't pivot it now. Do you guys want to challenge me on anything, or can we move on to the next?
I do, actually. Put that back up there.
Go.
Why, Mike, do you do this to yourself? You bet against, in the same year, you've now bet against Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. You think you're going to make both of them be bad in 1 year?
I mean, my Bill Belichick win projection was one off of yours, Tony. So give me some credit, for that one.
I thought didn't you have? Oh, it was Joe who had 6
I had 8 wins.
My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, I think that the hole on the O-line and you mix that with a new quarterback, unless Mitchell Trubisky plays like a seasoned vet and is really good, then that could change my projection a little bit. That could change my outlook on the Steelers a little bit. But I think that it is very underrated, and no one ever talks about this, how much Big Ben does at the line in pass protection to give himself enough time to get his 10-yard pass off. And I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky has that same veteran skill to make it work with an awful O-line. Same thing with the running game. Big Ben plays a huge part in the running game when it comes to calls at the line in the pre-snap. A lot of people don't pay attention to that part of football, but that is one of the key parts of an offense is communication at the line of scrimmage. So I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky is necessarily, like, obviously athletically, when we talk about where he's at in his career, he's an upgrade as a athlete. But up here, I don't know if that upgrade is as drastic.
No, it's not even close. Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer, one of the legendary quarterbacks of the last 20 years. Mitchell Trubisky is not even close to that. One thing I'll say is the Matt Canada offense. Every time I read an article, they're like, oh, Matt Canada is so excited to be able to have the ability to do the RPOs and the more of the bootlegs, all of those to be able to get Mitchell Trubisky on the run and have the offense be a little bit more dynamic, which he was unable to do, unable to help out the offensive lineman by having an athletic quarterback instead of having a statue in there who couldn't really push the ball down the field as much anymore.
Yeah, well, Mitch has to execute, and I don't know if I believe in him fully. Yeah. I don't know if I believe in him fully. That's my thought process with the Steelers. I think that's low as well. But I went through, and I did it.
So you're giving Mike Tomlin his first losing season, Mike.
First losing season of his career, and maybe his last. Because they do have a lot to build around. They just got to figure out the O-line and the QB situation, which can be flipped with just a few good draft picks and a good offseason. So, anyways, on to the next.
This is a brutal division.
There it is, guys. Let us know in the comments what you guys think, what we missed on, what we're not seeing. The Browns fans, let me know what will make your team win more than 3 games, because I don't see it.
Yeah. Drop those answers in the comments for us, please. We'll be responding to those comments when we can get to them, maybe the day after this episode drops. There's also more division previews. We're completing the entire AFC somewhere around when we post this, whether we post this one first or last. They're going to be up on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have notifications on. Make sure you like this video. Tony Tucker, Joe Morley, NFL Mike. We'll see you in what's next? AFC something or other. In the next division.